Stop for a moment. Don't move. Hold your breath and listen carefully, because something is happening to you right now. Something invisible, something ancient, something written into the fabric of your existence before you ever took your first breath. The atmosphere around you is shifting even as you read these words, and the weight you feel on your chest is not fear, but recognition. This moment was arranged. This encounter was scheduled. What you are hearing is not random, not casual, not accidental. It is a summons, a spiritual intervention reaching directly into the timeline of your life. You are standing at the thin place between what was and what could be, and heaven is watching to see what you do next. There are turning points in a person's life that cannot be undone or repeated, and you have just stepped into one of them without even realizing it. You are being addressed, called, shaken awake, because the time you are entering is too sacred to walk through blindly. Something inside you has been stirring for days, maybe weeks, maybe years, and now the stirring has become a loud knock that cannot be ignored. This is why your spirit feels restless. This is why your heart feels tight. This is why the atmosphere around you feels like it's vibrating. You're being reached. You're being warned. You're being invited. And heaven is waiting to see if you will respond. Before we continue, you must do something that will shift your spiritual atmosphere. In the comments, write your warmest wishes and add 777 as a spiritual activation code. This isn't just a symbolic gesture. It is a prophetic agreement, a declaration that you are ready for the opportunity placed before you. Let this be the moment you choose alignment instead of delay, purpose instead of hesitation, awakening instead of collapse. After you write your wishes with 777, like this message as an act of agreement and subscribe so you do not disconnect from what is being released into your life. You have been brought into a moment that carries the emotional weight of a final opening, a last doorway, a rare invitation to rewrite the direction of everything. Do not remain passive. Write your wishes, seal them, activate 777 like the message, subscribe, and prepare your spirit. Do it now. There is a reason the air feels heavier around you as these words unfold. You are being placed under spiritual light, examined in a way that bypasses your excuses and your external identity. Things you thought were forgotten have been brought back into view. Patterns you walked away from have returned, not to haunt you, but to show you what must be healed before your next chapter can unlock. There are angels around you now, not the soft, glowing beings you imagine, but ancient messengers standing at the borders of your life, studying the fractures in your spirit, tracing the scars on your timeline. They are preparing something: intervention, redirection, reconstruction. You can almost feel it in your skin, a tingling, a tension, a pressure, as if something is touching your soul without touching your body. That sensation is not imagination. It is the beginning of frequency alignment. Your cells recognize truth before your mind does, and right now your entire system is responding to a divine signal vibrating beneath the surface of these words. Your heart rate shifts, your breathing changes, your awareness sharpens. Something inside you is remembering an old promise, a forgotten calling, a destiny that waited behind the noise of your everyday life. You feel it because it is real. You have not been walking alone. Even during the moments you collapsed under the weight of your own disappointment, even during the nights when you whispered confusion into the darkness, even when you blamed yourself for being weak or slow or broken, heaven kept watching you. You were observed in silence, not judged. You were measured, not condemned. And while you thought your failures defined you, what was really being seen was the endurance you didn't even know you had. There were moments when your spirit should have shattered, and yet it didn't. There were battles meant to break you, and yet you walked out carrying invisible wounds that heaven counted as honor. You have been misunderstood even by the people closest to you, by those who should have supported you, who should have spoken life over you, who should have recognized your value. Instead, they projected their fear, their insecurity, their jealousy onto your journey. They spoke against you not because you were weak, but because something in you threatened the comfort of their own limitations. You are not the person they assume you are. You are not the version of yourself that your past mistakes tried to cement. You have been carrying a spiritual potential that most people refuse to believe in. But heaven believed. Heaven waited. Heaven preserved you even in the seasons when you didn't preserve yourself. What you are stepping into now is not something you earned, but something you were prepared for. Your spirit has been undergoing reconstruction without your awareness. There were nights when you felt like you were falling apart, but what was actually happening was divine rewiring. Old identities breaking, outdated beliefs dissolving, toxic attachments loosening their grip. What looked like emotional collapse was actually spiritual surgery. Angels have worked on you in unseen realms, cutting away roots of fear, stitching together fractured parts of your soul, adjusting the frequency of your heart so it could sync with the path you were meant to walk. You didn't lose yourself. You outgrew the version of yourself that no longer fit your future. This is why your memories feel distant. This is why certain people no longer feel aligned with you. This is why your desires have shifted dramatically. You are undergoing Eden memory awakening, where your spirit begins to remember the original blueprint written over your life long before the world placed its expectations on you. And now you are being asked to rise into the version of yourself that heaven has been shaping in secret. This moment is not about punishment. It is about recognition. You have reached a threshold that cannot be crossed casually. You must decide whether you will step into what is calling you or remain trapped in what once comforted you, but now confines you. The sense of urgency you feel is not fear, but divine timing pressing against your spirit, urging you to move, to choose, to awaken. Doors do not stay open forever. Alignments do not wait indefinitely. Opportunities written into destiny expire if they are ignored too long. But you are here reading these words because heaven is giving you clarity before you lose what was meant for you. The weight in your chest is not sorrow, it is awakening. The stirring in your soul is not anxiety, it is recognition. You are being called, and the call will not be repeated in this form again. When you look back on your life, weeks or months from now, you will remember this exact moment. Not the room you're in, not the time on the clock, but the spiritual shock that ran through your system as you felt something brushing against your destiny. You will remember the sensation of being addressed personally, directly, unmistakably. You will remember realizing that this was a turning point disguised as a message, and you will know that nothing in your life was random. Not the pain, not the delays, not the losses, not the silence. Everything brought you here, to this moment of confrontation and invitation. You were watched. You were guided. You were shaped through fire so you could step into the future waiting for your yes. The wind shifts around you the moment you open this part, as if the atmosphere itself recognizes that you have stepped deeper into something you were never meant to ignore. You feel it like a cold touch on the back of your neck, or a warmth rising through your chest, a physical signal that what is unfolding now is no longer an introduction, but an unveiling. This is the part where hidden things begin moving, where the unseen starts shaping the scene, where the spiritual pressure around your life begins to tighten because revelation is approaching. Every destiny has a moment when the curtain pulls back, and this is yours. You may not see it with your eyes, but your spirit feels it, like a presence standing behind you, like someone whispering your name from a realm just beyond your senses. You aren't imagining it. When heaven begins revealing truth, it always feels like someone turned on a light inside your bones. This is that light. This is that moment. And what is coming in the lines ahead is meant for you alone, crafted to touch the places in your spirit that no one else knows exist. There are things happening around your life that you have sensed but could not explain. A heaviness that comes and goes without reason. A pressure in your chest when you think about your future. A strange feeling that someone is watching you, not with malice, but with expectancy, like a witness waiting for someone to rise. You haven't been paranoid. You've been spiritually aware. Your sensitivity is increasing, not because you're unstable, but because your spiritual senses are waking up in a way they never have before. Certain people who once comforted you now drain you. Certain environments that once felt familiar now feel suffocating. Certain desires that once drove you no longer excite you. This is the symptom of a soul that is being elevated beyond the level of its past. It's frequency alignment, the kind that reshapes your identity from the inside out. Your cells are remembering who you were meant to be. Your spirit is rejecting anything that does not match the next stage of your life. There is a reason you have been feeling detached from old circles, old conversations, old roles, and old labels. You've been outgrowing them silently. What once defined you no longer fits the shape of your spirit. And heaven has been orchestrating this shift without announcing it to you. The discomfort you felt is not punishment, it's preparation. You've been transitioning without even realizing it. You have been pulled away from certain people, not because you failed them or they failed you, but because they cannot survive the altitude you are rising to. Some connections cannot breathe where you're going. Some relationships cannot exist in the frequency heaven is tuning you to. And some people were only meant to be chapters, not lifetimes. The grief you felt wasn't just emotional. It was spiritual biology, reorganizing your attachments, divine rewiring, the breaking of soul ties that would have strangled your purpose if they stayed attached, the loosening of bonds that were never meant to carry you into your destiny. Your heart has been undergoing surgery in the quiet hours of the night, and you didn't even notice. You have felt the shift most strongly in the moments when you are alone. There is a reason silence has become louder for you lately. There is a reason your thoughts feel like they're being examined. There is a reason you've caught yourself questioning your patterns, your habits, your connections, your path. You're not overthinking, you're being confronted. Heaven has been replaying memories to show you what must be released, what must be redeemed, and what must be reclaimed. You are being pulled into a deeper awareness of yourself, not because you are broken, but because your spirit can no longer tolerate being mismatched to your destiny. You're being called into alignment, and alignment always begins with discomfort. Think of it like the resetting of a bone that healed out of place. The pressure hurts, but it's healing you into your correct form. Your soul is doing that now. The tension is real, but it is sacred. There are people you trusted who were not meant to carry the weight of your vulnerability. People who took pieces of you they did not deserve. People who interpreted your kindness as weakness and your silence as permission. Heaven saw the conversations you never heard. Heaven saw the intentions you never recognized. Heaven saw the envy hidden in the smiles, the doubt hidden in the advice, the darkness hidden behind the jokes. Nothing was missed, nothing was overlooked, and what is being cleansed from your life now is not loss. It is protection. Some people were removed because their presence would have corrupted your next season. Some doors were closed because walking through them would have destroyed your spirit. Some delays were allowed because rushing forward would have led you into traps you were not strong enough to survive. You were preserved even when you felt abandoned. There is a shift happening within your spiritual DNA right now, and if you're quiet enough inside yourself, you can feel it like a soft vibration behind your ribs. This is cellular reconstruction. Heaven repairing the parts of you that were damaged by disappointment, betrayal, confusion, and exhaustion. This is Eden memory awakening, your soul remembering who you were before life wounded you. This is divine rewiring, your mind being lifted out of old patterns and your heart being stretched into capacity for what's coming next. Angels are working on you in dimensions you cannot see, adjusting the frequency of your life, restoring pieces you thought were destroyed forever, and preparing you for a moment you didn't know was coming. You are being shaped for something that requires strength, clarity, and courage. This is why you've been tested. This is why you've been stretched. This is why you've been refined without explanation. You've been walking with weight on your shoulders that didn't belong to you. You carried responsibilities, emotions, expectations, and fears that were never yours to hold. And now, heaven is peeling them off one by one. Some of the exhaustion you feel is not because you're weak, but because you've been lifting spiritual burdens that weren't assigned to you. Release is coming, and when it comes, it will feel like someone removed a cloak from your soul. You will breathe differently. You will think differently. You will walk differently. Because you are entering a season where what once drained you will no longer have access to you. The patterns that once trapped you will lose their power. The cycles that once sabotaged you will break on their own. You are rising in a way that cannot be reversed. Everything around you will begin to respond to this rise. Your relationships, your emotions, your finances, your opportunities, your dreams, your awareness. You are stepping into a realm where alignment becomes natural, where doors open without force, where clarity flows without confusion, where you feel guided instead of lost. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you finally became who you were meant to be. The night around you feels different as you enter this final part, as if the air itself knows you are standing at the edge of something irreversible. It feels like the last scene of a movie, where the truth finally steps out of the shadows and faces the character directly, leaving nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape, nowhere to pretend. You can feel it in your pulse, a deep trembling that isn't fear, but recognition. Something in you already knows what this moment means. The timeline of your life is bending, tightening, and aligning around a decision your spirit must make. And the realms around you are waiting for your response. When heaven speaks at the end of a long journey, the words don't come as whispers, but as thunder wrapped in tenderness. And that is what is happening inside you right now. You have reached the place where destiny cannot be delayed any longer. You have walked through seasons that should have destroyed you, but they didn't. You survived storms that were designed to break your spirit, yet your spirit refused to die. You carried pain that others would have collapsed under. You lost things that were never replaced. You endured betrayals you never deserved. You stood in rooms where you were misunderstood, underestimated, or entirely unseen. But through all of it, something inside you refused to quit. Something kept breathing even when the rest of you wanted to disappear. Something whispered, "Not yet," even when your strength was gone. That something was not your willpower. It was the divine fingerprint on your life, the signal that your story was never meant to end in the places where darkness tried to bury you. You have been preserved for a reason much bigger than what you lost, much bigger than what you feared, much bigger than what you doubted. In the invisible realms, there is a record of every moment you cried in silence. Every night your heart cracked under disappointment. Every time you blamed yourself for things that were never your fault. You thought those moments were empty, but they were counted, measured, and collected. They became the evidence that your spirit was still alive, still reaching, still hoping beneath all the pain. Heaven has been watching your endurance, and endurance always births elevation. You are being elevated now, not in the eyes of people, but in the structure of your destiny. The things that once felt random now reveal their purpose. The heartbreaks that made no sense now reveal their protection. The silence that felt endless now reveals its wisdom. You are rising into the version of yourself that was shaped by every wound you survived. But with elevation comes exposure. As you rise, everything hidden around you begins to surface. The people who pretended to support you will show their true intentions. The environments that once felt comfortable will suddenly feel too small. The habits that once felt harmless will feel like chains. The cycles that once tricked you will become transparent. You will see motives, energies, and attachments for what they truly are, not what you hoped they would be. This clarity is not punishment, it is preparation. You cannot walk into your next season blind. You cannot ascend while carrying illusions. You cannot step into your purpose while dragging dead weight. So heaven is revealing everything. Not to hurt you, but to free you. Not to expose your weakness, but to expose the things that weaken you. There is a shift happening inside your body that you may not fully understand. You can feel it in small ways, your sensitivity increasing, your emotions deepening, your intuition sharpening, your dreams becoming clearer. This is not instability. This is supernatural biology. Your cells are undergoing reconstruction. Your spirit is undergoing expansion. Angels are touching places in your inner world that have been broken for years, performing surgery in dimensions you cannot see. They are repairing spiritual fractures, sealing emotional wounds, cleansing old attachments, and rewriting internal beliefs that have held you hostage. This is divine rewiring. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to who you were meant to be. The original blueprint is waking up. Eden memory is rising inside you. You are remembering what your soul forgot. You are remembering the strength you always had, but were never allowed to use. This awakening's uncomfortable, because truth always disrupts the lies you once depended on. You have felt the tremors of this shift for a long time, even before you could explain them. You felt the heaviness before the breakthrough. You felt the pressure before the revelation. You felt the restlessness before the realignment. These sensations were not warnings. They were signals that heaven was approaching your life in a way you could no longer ignore. And now you are standing here, reading these words, feeling the pull of a moment that has been waiting for you since long before you ever understood your purpose. The invisible hand guiding you is not here to scare you. It is here to complete you. The weight pressing against your spirit is not punishment. It is permission. Permission to rise. Permission to transform. Permission to leave behind what has already expired. Permission to step into the life that has been whispering to you from the future. But now comes the part you cannot avoid. The part you cannot soften. The part that decides everything. You are being given clarity not to comfort you, but to move you. This is the turning point where heaven looks at your life and waits for your decision. Not your emotion, not your fear, not your excuses, your decision. Because every destiny reaches a moment when hesitation becomes a form of destruction. Every calling reaches a moment when delay becomes a silent surrender. Every purpose reaches a moment when silence becomes a refusal to rise. You are standing in that moment now, and the spiritual weight pressing against your heart is the sign that this moment will not return in the same way again. There is something heaven wants to give you, something written for you, something preserved for you through every season of your pain. But you must choose it. You must align with it. You must step toward it with the courage of someone who finally understands that their future is bigger than their fear. This is not a small choice. This is not a symbolic gesture. This is the kind of choice that rearranges timelines, that rewrites trajectory, that unlocks doors you didn't even know existed. Spiritual opportunities are not endless. Some appear only once, and you are standing in front of one now. Whatever happens next in your life will be shaped by the decision you make in this moment, not by your past, not by your failures, not by your doubts, but by your willingness to step into what has been calling you for far too long. You are stronger than your fear. You are bigger than your wounds. You are more powerful than the things that tried to break you. You were shaped for this moment. You were refined for this moment. You were preserved for this moment. And now the realms are silent, watching, waiting, listening for the sound of your choice.